Get off my property before I call the cops. That's what she screamed at me on land I'd just bought. Deed and hand title insurance, up to $500,000, totally airtight while she's glaring like I'm the trespasser. You ever have one of those moments where you look around, double-check your reality, and wonder if you're in the wrong movie? That was me. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and I just bought a 120-year-old farmhouse well outside any HOA mess through a county tax auction. The property was mine free and clear, except nobody told Brenda Sutton. So Brenda shows up out of nowhere, firing up her phone camera, her husband Craig trailing behind with a crowbar, and get this, the local deputy, her husband's old golf buddy. I'm not kidding. It was the second week of May 2024, and I'd just hired a surveying crew to mark out the exact boundaries on my 4.2 acres. Farmhouse, about 800 meters from the nearest HOA, so no pastel fence police, no one bugging me about dandelions. At least that's what I thought. Suddenly, here comes a white Lexus SUV barreling down my driveway, dust swirling brakes, squealing. Out jumps Brenda, maybe early 40s, highlighted blonde hair, designer shades, yoga pants, shirt, proudly blaring Heritage Preservation Coalition, looking at me like I just set fire to the Alamo. Craig gets out too, hands jammed in his pockets, posture like he's auditioning for a showdown. Brenda doesn't bother with hello. She's shouting, telling my surveyors to stop screaming that 1.3 acres of my property is actually the community's or her family's or basically anybody's but mine. I ask for her name. She gives it. I ask for any documentation. She dodges, says her family's been stewarding the land since 1995, building community gardens, holding nature walks, keeping traditions alive. And here I am, the big bad greedy outsider trying to destroy it all. Meanwhile, her phone is up recording, giving her little social media audience a live sermon about me trespassing on sacred land. I try explaining calmly because, I have the deed. It's all recorded with the county bought at a public tax auction, 100% legal. Brenda just scoffs paperwork. Doesn't matter when you love the land. Right about then, a sheriff's car rolls up. I actually breathe out, finally, someone official. Joke's on me. The deputy Hackett doesn't even look my way, walks straight to Brenda, and Craig shakes Craig's hand, crosses his arms and tells me there's a complaint about unauthorized surveying. I say, look, there's no dispute here. I own the place. I've got the documents. He shrugs, something about historical easements and community use rights, says the smart thing would be to stop work until it's sorted out. I offer my deed. He waves me off. Says he's not a lawyer and I should cooperate. Brenda's standing behind him, arms crossed, smirk, locked in place. Craig's leaning on that crowbar like he's Babe Ruth in the ninth. The survey crew's looking at me like, what now? Hackett tells me he'd hate to come back for a disturbance. Real neighborly threat, so I tell the crew to pack it in for the day. Brenda, triumphant, tells me I made the right choice and warns me the whole community is watching. They leave. Hackett gives me one last look that basically says, play ball or else. And just like that, I'm standing there alone, 3 orange survey stakes poking up like sad little flags. That's when it hits me, this isn't going away. This is going to be a war. But see, I didn't stumble onto this farmhouse. I did my homework, traced ownership back a century, paid for title insurance, went through the county with a fine-tooth comb. No way was I backing down. First thing I do, call my real estate attorney, Rebecca Hayes. Second, call to a friend who's a wizard with property records. If Brenda wants a fight, I'm lining up every scrap of evidence before the next round. Let me back up a sec. I'm a civil engineer, 15 years building bridges and highways. Burned out at 38, decided I'd rather fix up history than grind out another contract. That's how I found this listing, Thornton Farmstead, built in 1904, tucked at the end of a long dirt road surrounded by ancient oaks. The house, 2 stories, original oak floors, wraparound porch, old barn turned stable. Last owner, Mrs. Mercer, passed in 2021. County seized it for unpaid taxes, up for auction. I checked everything, full chain of title, 140 pages long. Thornton family to 1968, then Keller family, then county. Not a single mention of Sutton, no easements, no shared use, nothing. Plat map from 1978, boundaries matching GPS survey to the centimeter. Bought title insurance for $500K just to be sure. Won the auction for $127,500. Deed in hand by March. First few weeks I'm deep into planning architects, electricians, even historical paint colors. But at the hardware store, Mr. Grayson leans in and warns me, "The Suttons have been treating that place like theirs forever. Be careful." I laughed it off. Should have listened. 3 days after the showdown, I get a cease and desist letter. Heritage Preservation Coalition signed Brenda Sutton claiming adverse possession and prescriptive easement. She demands I halt all work or face legal action. I send it straight to Rebecca. Good news, her claims are garbage. In our state, adverse possession needs 20 years continuous use and you have to pay the taxes. Sutton's never paid a dime on my land. Prescriptive easement. That's right of way, not ownership. But Rebecca warns me, people with money and connections can drag these things out. She tells me to document everything, get an official survey, and buckle up. A couple days later, Hackett's back, phone call first, then in person, says Brenda's now complaining I'm altering a historic structure. His tone, same fake calm. Like he's memorized the script. I show him plans. No construction yet, just measuring. He snoops around, drops a classic, sometimes being right isn't the same as being smart. Yeah, right. I tell him if there's a problem, take it to court. As he leaves, I start recording. He asks if I'm recording, yep, for transparency. He glares and leaves. I back up that file in 3 places. That's when it all clicks. This isn't about tradition, it's about control. The Suttons have the local sheriff's office running interference. I pull county tax records Suttons paid on their parcels since '95, never on mine. If they'd really cared for my land, why didn't they pay the taxes because they knew it wasn't theirs? A few days later, my phone blows up, calls, texts, screenshots. Brenda's got a post up on the local Facebook group, Historic Farmstead, Under Threat Community Rallies to Save Local Treasure. She paints me as some out-of-town developer, posts a photo of me cropped to look like I'm screaming at workers. Hundreds pile on accusing me of greed, bribery, worse. Some ask for proof, barely a whisper under the angry mob. I want to fire back, post my deed, my records, but Rebecca talks me down. Don't get emotional. Let Brenda dig her own hole. Build your case. So I screenshot everything and wait. 4 days later, Brenda calls an emergency community meeting. Library's packed. Brenda's got a slideshow, handouts, the works. She says her coalition raised $15,000, makes it sound like I stole their birthright. When she's done, I stand up, calm, direct. I show every document. Title survey, chain of ownership, tax records, no Suttons. I tell them I'm not tearing anything down, just restoring what's there. If someone's got actual proof, let's see it. Otherwise, it's just stories. The room's silent. Someone asks Brenda for her paperwork. She dodges, mumbles about tradition. Another asks why they didn't try to buy the place at auction. She says they didn't know, which is weak, since it was advertised everywhere. The dynamic shifts. Brenda doubles down online, but I start digging hard. The community garden is just weeds and rotten boards, 8 beds untouched for years. Utility records, power and water cut years ago. I pull receipts, find one from 2017. Brenda bought materials for the beds delivered to the farmstead while Mrs. Mercer was still alive. That's trespassing, not stewardship. Even worse, the original survey markers had been moved just a few meters, but enough to shift the line toward the Suttons. Soil-disturbed shovel marks still visible. I turn it all over to Rebecca. She files a quiet title action, asks the court to declare me sole owner, kill any Sutton claim, and files a cease and desist against Brenda. We get a new survey markers, are where they should be, but 3 have clearly been tampered with. I ask the sheriff for a new investigator. Brenda's lawyer files a counterclaim full of baseless accusations but no evidence. I keep working and quietly install 6 security cameras around the property. Not a week later, the stable's vandalized boards, smashed thief spray painted across the siding. I call the sheriff, new Deputy Torres comes out. Says it's hard to prove without cameras. What he doesn't know, I already have them rolling. 10 days later, 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzes. Brenda and Craig are out there on camera pulling up survey stakes. With a crowbar, tossing them into the woods, caught crystal clear faces, voices, license plate, the works. Rebecca is thrilled this is our smoking gun. She submits the footage, and the county board holds a hearing. Room is packed, news crews, neighbors, Brenda playing the concerned citizen. She gives her slideshow. Then I present my timeline deeds, survey tax records, utility shutoffs, even the receipts showing her trespass. Then I play the video, 9 minutes and 40 seconds of Brenda and Craig, middle of the night, prying out county survey markers, talking about proving the stakes are wrong. Silence. Board members ask Brenda if she ever had permission. She stammers, admits she never asked, just thought it was abandoned. Then the bombshell asked if she'd hired a surveyor. She says no, she just knew where the line was. Crowd turns, even her old supporters start questioning everything. After that, the legal system moves fast. Judge rules in my favor, quiet title, restraining order, damages, legal fees. Brenda gets criminal charges, vandalism, interfering with survey monuments. She pleads out 6 months in county jail, suspended 3 years probation, community service apology published in the paper. Craig gets a fine and some service. Their so-called coalition folds. Donations get refunded. Brenda's reputation shot. Even Deputy Hackett gets reassigned after I file a complaint, no more running cover for his friends. And you know what I finally got to do? What I set out to do. I finished restoring the farmhouse, original floors, porch, even the clay tile roof, the stable, everything. In April 2025, I hosted an open house, neighbors, history buffs. Even folks who'd once believed Brenda. People saw the work, the history, the truth. Mr. Grayson brought me a framed old photo of the place from the 50s. His wife helped me plant a heritage garden where the old beds had rotted away. Suddenly, folks wanted to pitch in, not to claim it, but to be part of preserving it. That's what stewardship is, respecting boundaries, asking permission, giving more than you take. Not just marching in camera blazing, rewriting history to suit yourself. I even wrote a blog post, turned my mess into advice for anyone buying rural property, get title insurance, hire a real surveyor, document. Everything, install cameras early, and don't ever assume the law alone will protect you if someone wants what's yours. The best part. The farmhouse made the local historic register protected for the next century. Not because it was mine, but because it belongs to everyone who respects what came before. I started holding free workshops, timber framing, gardening, blacksmithing, whatever folks wanted to learn. The same people who once glared at me now mow the meadow and help with repairs. Not because they're owed the land, but because they care. I sit on the porch, sometimes coffee in hand, thinking about Mrs. Thornton, the original owner, a widow who built this place for her kids, hung on through everything. I think about Brenda, too, and how easy it is for people to convince themselves they're in the right, even when they're not. I fought for this place not just to win, but to honor everyone who came before and to make sure the history survives for whoever comes next. If you're still here, thanks for sticking around. Tell me, have you ever had to stand up for something that was rightfully yours? How did it go? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, share this story with someone who'd love a good plot twist. And if you want to see what comes next for the farmhouse, hit subscribe. Some things are worth fighting for,